The Silent Invasion. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Artemis 7 picked up the first anomalous signals on a routine sweep of the Kuiper Belt. What started as faint disturbances in background radiation quickly evolved into unmistakable patterns, artificial, directional, and closing fast. Dr. Lena Sharma, the station's lead astrophysicist, hadn't slept in 36 hours, her eyes bloodshot as she analyzed the incoming data. "This isn't random noise," she whispered to herself, the holographic display illuminating her face in pale blue light. "This is a language." Within hours, similar reports flooded in from monitoring stations across Earth and its colonies on Mars and Europa. Whatever was approaching wasn't hiding anymore. They wanted to be seen. United Earth Defense Command activated its emergency protocols for the first time since its formation 50 years ago. Military vessels stationed throughout the solar system were recalled to defensive positions. Civilian ships were ordered to dock at the nearest stations. A system-wide alert went out, but governments worked to prevent panic. Admiral James Chen stood before the Emergency Council in Geneva, his weathered face grim as he addressed the assembled world leaders. "The objects approaching our system are massive. At least 30 vessels ranging from cruiser to dreadnought class. Their technology signature is unlike anything we've encountered from known spacefaring species. They've made no attempt to communicate despite our repeated hails." President Adeola Okafor of the African Union leaned forward. "How long until they reach Earth?" 72 hours at their current velocity," Chen replied. "But they could accelerate at any moment." The invasion fleet became visible to the naked eye on the third day, enormous obsidian structures that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. Their design defied conventional engineering, with asymmetrical protrusions and strange energy fields pulsing around their hulls. They slowed as they passed Neptune's orbit, maintaining perfect formation. Then, all communication systems on Earth simultaneously activated. Every screen, holographic display, and neural interface showed the same image. A tall, slender being with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Its eyes were large, completely black, and its mouth didn't move as it spoke, the words appearing directly in the minds of everyone watching. "People of Earth, we are the Voidborn. Your solar system now falls within our territory. You have 24 hours to surrender control of your resources, technology, and genetic material. Compliance will allow you to exist as a protectorate species under our guidance. Resistance will result in your extinction. This is not a negotiation." The message repeated once before every screen went dark. Within minutes, riots erupted in major cities across the globe. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Military forces worldwide scrambled to combat positions. In an underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, a different response was underway. Project Prometheus, Earth's most closely guarded secret, was being activated ahead of schedule. Dr. Meera Patel, the project's lead engineer, stood before a secure video conference with the Defense Council. "Prometheus isn't ready," she said bluntly. "We've only completed one vessel, and we haven't finished all the system integrations." "Will it fly, Doctor?" General Ibrahim asked. "Yes, but will its weapons function?" Patel hesitated. "The primary systems, yes. The quantum cascade system is untested outside simulation." "Then it's more ready than the rest of our fleet," Ibrahim said. "The Voidborn ships outmass our entire defense force combined. Conventional weapons barely registered on their shields during the Mars perimeter test. Prometheus is our only option." In the massive underwater hangar, Captain Alina Reyes walked the deck of humanity's secret weapon, the EDS Defiance. Unlike the sleek, utilitarian designs of standard Earth vessels, the Defiance was a brutalist nightmare of angular armor plates and protruding weapon systems. Its hull incorporated salvaged alien technology from a crashed scout ship discovered in Antarctica 50 years earlier and kept hidden from the public. The ship wasn't beautiful, but it was a monster. The first vessel designed not just for space exploration or defense, but for war against a technologically superior enemy. Captain on deck. Her XO, Commander Jackson Wee, called as she entered the bridge. Status report. Rise ordered, settling into the command chair. All systems online. Reactor at 92% capacity. Crew at 87% of optimal complement. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Rise studied the tactical display showing the Voidborn fleet now in stationary positions throughout the solar system. 3 of their largest ships had positioned themselves in Earth orbit, while smaller vessels had moved to secure positions around major colonies and resource nodes. They're already acting like they own the system, Rise murmured. What's the status of the civilian evacuation? Proceeding, but slowly, Wei answered. The lunar shelters are at 40% capacity. Mars colonies are locked down. The Europa research station has gone silent. Rise nodded grimly. The 24-hour deadline was approaching, and the Voidborn hadn't bothered to open any channels for Earth's response. They expected full capitulation, or perhaps they never intended to honor their offer at all. Commence launch sequence, she ordered. Take us up quietly. Let's see how long we can maintain the element of surprise. The massive hangar doors above the facility slid open, revealing the dark Pacific waters. The Defiance rose silently, its advanced propulsion system leaving barely a ripple as it ascended through the ocean and broke the surface under the cover of night. As the ship climbed through the atmosphere, its stealth systems engaged, rendering it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, each aware that they carried the hopes of humanity with them. Captain, Lieutenant Amara Osai, the communications officer, called out. We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Chen. The Council has authorized the deployment of all remaining defensive assets. They're launching a diversionary attack to draw attention from our approach. Reyes clenched her jaw. Those ships don't stand a chance. They know that, Captain, Wei said quietly, but they're buying us time. On the tactical display, the small fleet of Earth Defense Force vessels moved into attack positions around the nearest Voidborn dreadnought. They looked like toys next to the massive alien vessel. The Earth ships opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons and kinetic projectiles hammering against the Voidborn shields. For a brief moment, it seemed the combined assault might have some effect as the alien shields flickered. Then the dreadnought responded. A single pulse of energy emanated from the vessel, expanding outward in a perfect sphere. As it touched each Earth ship, they simply came apart. Not exploding, but disintegrating into their component molecules. My God, someone whispered on the bridge. Reyes forced herself to remain focused. Tactical, analyze that weapon. Find me a frequency, a pattern, anything we can use. Working on it, Captain, Lieutenant Quan responded, his fingers flying over his console. But our sensors couldn't capture much before the ships were gone. We're approaching optimal firing range, Wei reported. Still undetected. Ray studied the tactical display. The Voidborn had barely moved in response to the attack. They didn't consider Earth's forces a threat worth repositioning for. Their arrogance will be their undoing, Ray said. Target the nearest vessel with the main cannon. Full power. The Defiance's primary weapon was built around the salvaged propulsion core from the Antarctic crash site, technology centuries beyond human understanding, but which Dr. Patel's team had managed to repurpose into a directed energy weapon of unprecedented power. Target acquired, Lieutenant Quan confirmed. Firing solution locked. Fire. The ship shuddered as the main cannon discharged. A lance of brilliant blue-white energy streaked across space, striking the targeted Voidborn vessel amidships. For a second, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's shields collapsed, and the beam punched through its outer hull, erupting from the far side in a spectacular display of destructive force. The bridge crew erupted in cheers, but Reyes remained focused. Damage assessment. Direct hit, Quan reported, his voice tight with excitement. Their shields failed completely. We've caused a catastrophic breach in their hull, but the vessel is still operational. On the display, the wounded Voidborn ship was already moving, turning to face this unexpected threat. The other alien vessels began to alter course as well. "We've lost the element of surprise," Wei said. "They're all converging on our position." Reyes nodded. "As expected. Helm, execute evasive pattern Zeta. Weapons, prepare for multipoint engagement. Let's show these Voidborn that humanity isn't going down without a fight." The Defiance shot forward, its experimental engines pushing it to speeds no human vessel had achieved before. The damaged Voidborn ship fired, a stream of energy narrowly missing the human vessel. "They're faster than we anticipated," the helmsman called out as the ship rocked from a glancing hit. "Shields holding at 82%, reported the engineering officer. 3 more Voidborn vessels were now in weapons range, their massive forms blotting out the stars as they maneuvered to surround the Defiance. "We can't take them all at once," Wei warned. "We don't need to," Rise responded, studying the tactical display. "We just need to prove we can hurt them." "Lieutenant Quan, target their wounded vessel again. Aim for the breach we created." "Lieutenant Rodriguez, prepare to launch all SABRE missiles on my mark." The Defiance banked sharply, bringing its main cannon to bear on the damaged alien ship. Fire. Once again, the powerful beam struck the Voidborn vessel, this time penetrating directly through the existing damage and striking something critical inside. The alien ship shuddered, secondary explosions cascading along its length. SABRE missiles away. Rodriguez called as a swarm of advanced missiles streaked toward the wounded target. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the missiles impacted the stricken vessel. Designed specifically to penetrate energy shields, they burrowed deep before detonating. The Voidborn ship broke apart in a spectacular series of explosions, fragments spinning away into the void. For a moment, there was stunned silence on the bridge, then a collective intake of breath. They had done the impossible, destroyed a vessel belonging to the seemingly invincible invaders. But there was no time to celebrate. The remaining Voidborn ships responded with a coordinated attack, multiple energy beams converging on the Defiance from different angles. "Evasive maneuvers," Rise ordered as the ship rocked violently. "Divert power to aft shields." "Shields at 47%, engineering reported. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." "We've made our point," Rise said. "Helm, prepare for emergency jump to the fallback coordinates. We need to regroup." As the Defiance's jump drive spooled up, a final volley from the Voidborn fleet struck the ship, sending crew members flying across the bridge. "Shields critical. Hull breach on deck 4. Jump now," Rise ordered. The stars stretched and distorted as the Defiance tore through space, leaving the Voidborn fleet temporarily behind. Humanity had landed a significant blow against the invaders, but the war had only just begun. Humanity's Defiance. The Defiance emerged from its emergency jump in the shadow of Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in a dull red glow as damage control teams raced to repair critical systems. Captain Rise wiped blood from a gash on her forehead, surveying the status reports with grim determination. "Damage assessment," she ordered, her voice steady despite the pain. "Main power at 38%, Commander Wei reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, contained but significant. The main cannon is offline. Power coupling sheared during the jump. 16 confirmed casualties, 38 injured." Reyes nodded, absorbing the information. "And the Voidborn. No pursuit yet. We believe our jump confused their tracking systems, but they're methodically searching the system. It's only a matter of time." The initial elation of destroying one of the alien vessels had faded into the harsh reality of their situation. The Defiance was damaged, outgunned, and alone against an enemy fleet that still maintained overwhelming superiority. "Captain," Lieutenant Osai called from her station. "I'm receiving a weak transmission from the Europa Research Station. They're still alive." Reyes moved to her console. "I thought they went silent during the initial invasion." "They did. They powered down completely to avoid detection. They're using a narrow beam transmission now, aimed directly at us. Put them through. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the haggard face of Dr. Marcus O'Keefe, the station's director. His lab was dimly lit, probably running on emergency power. Captain Rice, thank God you're alive. We saw the battle from our telescopes. What's your situation, Doctor? Stable for now. The Voidborn seem to consider us too insignificant to bother with, but we've been monitoring them. And we've made a discovery you need to know about. O'Keefe's image was replaced by sensor data and spectral analyses. We've been studying the Voidborn ships since they arrived. Their hulls are composed of a metamaterial unlike anything we've seen before. It absorbs energy and redistributes it to power their shields. But there's a flaw. The display highlighted a specific frequency pattern. Their defensive systems operate on a quantum resonance band. They're incredibly powerful, but also incredibly precise. If you can hit them with a counter-resonant frequency, the entire system destabilizes. Rise leaned forward, hope kindling in her eyes. You're saying we can take down their shields? More than that, O'Keefe replied. Their ships are so dependent on this resonance field that disrupting it could cascade through their entire power network. One hit with the right frequency could disable an entire vessel. Engineering teams worked around the clock to modify the Defiance's weapon systems. Dr. Patel herself had come aboard to oversee the integration of O'Keefe's counter-resonance technology into the repaired main cannon. It's not elegant, she admitted to Reyes during a brief break, but it should work. The challenge will be getting close enough to use it. Leave that to me, Reyes said. How long until we're operational? 6 hours, minimum. The power couplings took a beating. While repairs continued, Reyes convened her senior officers in the tactical room. The holographic display showed the current positions of the Voidborn fleet, which had spread throughout the solar system, methodically securing points of interest. They're establishing a permanent presence, Wei observed, setting up mining operations on Mercury and processing facilities on Mars. They're stripping our system for resources. And Earth? Reyes asked. Lieutenant Rodriguez gestured to the display. 3 dreadnoughts remain in orbit. They've deployed smaller craft to strategic locations on the surface. Reports indicate they're setting up collection facilities for biological samples. They're harvesting humans, Osei said, her voice tight with anger. As promised in their ultimatum, Reyes said, we're just resources to them, minerals, metals, and genetic material to exploit. She studied the display intently. We can't take on their entire fleet, even with Dr. O'Keefe's discovery. We need to strike decisively, take out their command structure. The problem is identifying which ship is their command vessel, Wei said. Their formation doesn't give anything away. Captain, Osei interrupted, I'm receiving a transmission. It's not human. The message came through in a series of musical tones and clicks, accompanied by mathematical sequences that the ship's computer quickly translated. It's from the Arcani, Osei said with surprise. They're offering assistance. The Arcani were a secretive, non-humanoid species from a system 12 light-years from Earth. First contact had been established nearly 30 years ago, but relations had remained distant though cordial. The jellyfish-like beings preferred isolation, maintaining only minimal trade agreements with human colonies. They'd been monitoring the situation. Osei continued, reading the translation. They say the Voidborn have consumed 3 other systems before reaching ours. They want to help prevent further expansion. What kind of help are they offering? Reyes asked. Information. They've identified the Voidborn command structure and hierarchy. And Osei looked up, her eyes wide. They're sending ships. 3 vessels, armed and ready to fight alongside us. For the first time since the invasion began, genuine hope spread through the command staff. The Arcani ships were known to be technologically advanced, though no human had ever seen them in combat. How soon will they arrive? Reyes asked. They're already here, Osei replied. They'd been shadowing the Voidborn fleet since it entered our system, gathering intelligence. They're holding position behind Ganymede, awaiting your response. Ray's straightened. Open a channel. Let's welcome our allies. Over the next 12 hours, a plan took shape. The Arcani provided detailed intelligence on the Voidborn fleet, including identifying their command vessel, not the largest ship, but a mid-sized craft that remained in the center of their formation, protected by the others. Their society is hierarchical and centralized, explained the Arcani representative, whose translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as it spoke through a translation device. Destroy the command vessel, disrupt their quantum communication network, and the fleet will be temporarily paralyzed while command transfers to a subordinate. A window of opportunity, Rice mused. Yes, but brief. You must strike decisively at their entire command structure during this window. The plan was audacious and dangerous. The Defiance, now equipped with the counter-resonance weapon, would lead a direct assault on the command vessel, escorted by the 3 Arcani ships. Meanwhile, a separate strike team would infiltrate the Voidborn network with a virus designed to disrupt their communications when their command structure was compromised. Captain, Wei said privately as they finalized preparations, this is a one-way mission. Even if we succeed in taking out their command ship, we'll be surrounded by their entire fleet. I know, Rice replied. That's why participation is voluntary. I've already recorded orders relieving anyone who wishes to stay behind of duty. Wei smiled slightly. I don't think you'll need those orders, Captain. The crew has been through hell. They want to finish this. He was right. Not a single crew member requested to be relieved. As the Defiance prepared to leave its hiding place, the ship hummed with nervous energy and determination. Rice addressed the crew one last time before they departed. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every species that values freedom. The Voidborn believe we're nothing but resources to be harvested. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show them that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. We will stand. We will fight. And with our new allies, we will win. The combined Earth Arcani force moved into position, using Jupiter's magnetic field to mask their approach. The Arcani ships were unlike anything humans had built, organic-looking vessels that seemed to swim through space rather than fly, their hulls shifting and adapting constantly. Counter-resonance weapon charged and ready, Dr. Puddle reported from engineering. But we'll only get one shot before the power couplings burn out. Then we make it count, Rice replied. Begin the approach. The small fleet accelerated toward the heart of the Voidborn formation, which had consolidated as they established control over the system. At first, the aliens took no notice of the approaching vessels, perhaps dismissing them as debris or natural phenomena in their sensors. By the time they recognized the threat, the attack was already underway. The Arcani ships moved with incredible agility, their exotic weapons tearing through the outer defensive screen of smaller Voidborn vessels. The Defiance followed in their wake, pushing its damaged engines to their limit. Alarms blared as enemy weapons fire began impacting their shields. Shields at 70% and falling, reported engineering. Stay on course, Rice ordered. All power to forward shields and engines. The Voidborn command vessel came into view, surrounded by a protective screen of escort ships. The Arcani vessels engaged these guards, drawing them away with precision strikes and swift maneuvers that the heavier alien ships couldn't match. We have a clear shot, Lieutenant Quan announced, tension evident in his voice. Target locked. Counter-resonance frequencies aligned. Fire, Rice commanded. The modified main cannon discharged, the beam visibly different from before. It shimmered and pulsed with varying frequencies as it streaked toward the command vessel. When it struck the Voidborn shields, there was no immediate effect. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the weapon had failed. Then the alien shields began to ripple and distort, energy cascading across the surface in chaotic patterns. The distortion spread across the ship's hull, energy discharges arcing between different sections. It's working. Patil exclaimed from engineering. Their power grid is destabilizing. On the main view screen, the Voidborn command vessel's lights flickered and died, the ship going dark section by section. Secondary explosions erupted along its length as systems overloaded. Launch the sci-fi missiles, Rise ordered. Target their propulsion and weapons arrays. The missiles streaked toward the paralyzed vessel, impacting precisely on key structural points. The command ship broke apart, massive sections tearing away from the central core. Communications, initiate the virus now. Lieutenant Osei activated the program developed by Earth's Cyber Warfare Division, with input from the Arcani. It propagated through the quantum network the Voidborn used to coordinate their fleet, exploiting the confusion caused by the loss of their command center. Throughout the system, Voidborn ships suddenly went dark or began moving erratically, their coordinated defense falling into chaos. It worked, Wei exclaimed. Their fleet is disorganized. The remaining ships are acting independently. But the victory was short-lived. The Defiance had sustained heavy damage during its approach, and now found itself deep within enemy territory, surrounded by disabled but still dangerous Voidborn vessels. Captain, power fluctuations throughout the ship, engineering reported. The main reactor is destabilizing. We can't take another hit. Rais surveyed the tactical situation. Their path of retreat was blocked by several Voidborn ships that were already recovering from the initial disruption. The Arcani vessels were engaged with enemies of their own, unable to provide cover. Options? She asked why. Before he could respond, a new alert sounded. Multiple signatures detected. Quan called out. Incoming vessels at high speed. Rais braced for another wave of Voidborn reinforcements. Instead, the tactical display showed dozens of small, fast-moving craft approaching from Earth's direction. Captain, they're ours, Osei exclaimed. Earth Defense Force insignia. They're broadcasting on all channels. The lunar shipyards activated their reserve fleet. On the screen, swarms of Earth vessels, smaller and less advanced than the Defiance, but numerous and agile, engaged the disoriented Voidborn ships. In the confusion following the command ship's destruction and the network virus, the aliens couldn't mount an effective defense against the sudden onslaught. This is Admiral Chen to the Defiance. Came the transmission. Hell of a job, Captain Reyes. We'll take it from here. Get your ship to safety. As the Earth fleet engaged the Voidborn, creating a corridor for the Defiance to escape, Reyes allowed herself a moment of pride. Humanity had faced extinction and refused to accept it. Instead, they had fought back against overwhelming odds, found allies where none were expected, and turned the tide against an enemy that thought itself invincible. The Voidborn invasion wasn't over. Many of their ships remained operational, and the battle for Earth would continue. But for the first time since the alien fleet appeared in the solar system, victory seemed possible. Set course for Earth, Reyes ordered. Let's go home. In the weeks that followed, the combined forces of Earth and the Arcani methodically eliminated the remaining Voidborn presence in the solar system. Without their command structure and communications network, the alien vessels couldn't coordinate effectively against the smaller but more numerous Earth ships. The Defiance, repaired and upgraded with technologies developed during the conflict, led many of these operations. Captain Reyes became a symbol of humanity's resilience, her name celebrated throughout Earth and its colonies. When the last Voidborn ship was finally driven from the solar system, representatives from Earth met with the Arcani and other species who had suffered under Voidborn expansion. Together, they formed the first interstellar defense alliance, with humanity playing a central role despite being one of the younger spacefaring species. The message spread across the galaxy. The Voidborn were not invincible. And humanity, resourceful, determined, and fiercely protective of its freedom, had proven itself a force to be reckoned with among the stars. On the bridge of the Defiance, now leading a patrol at the edge of the solar system, Captain Reyes gazed at the distant stars. The Voidborn would return someday. Perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps not for years, but eventually. And when they did, humanity would be ready. New contacts detected, Captain. Lieutenant Quan reported. Signatures match void-borne scout vessels. Rice smiled slightly. Alert Earth Command. And prepare the main cannon. She settled into her command chair as the crew moved with practiced efficiency around her. Let's remind them who they're dealing with.